like I'm caustic, I'm breathing on gas. They're on the smoke, patient we wait to attack. I feel like I've lost it, I see through the gas. Obnoxious, I'm knocking, yeah, I'm taking your back. I feel like I'm caustic, looting your buddy, your homie still choking on gas. I'm laughing, bigging the enemy, hoping they pick up your slack. Yeah, winning now feels like a thing of the past. You're proud to go throw up the glass. We take what we want, we leave in the trash. Racking up facts as we move through the map. We're waiting for people to follow my trap. Go to swamps, don't take what we want. Tipping down, living some 50 gang. What we owe, man, through the door, flat line, like you up. Always getting what we want, but it never is enough.
My methods are only controversial to those who lack imagination.
I feel like I'm caustic, I'm breathing on gas. They're on the smoke, patient we wait to attack. I feel like I've lost it, I see through the gas. Obnoxious, I'm knocking, yeah, I'm taking your bag. I feel like I'm caustic, I'm breathing on gas. They're on the smoke, patient we wait to attack. I feel like I've lost it, I see through the gas. Obnoxious, I'm knocking, yeah, I'm taking your bag. I'm throwing out cans, I'm betting you won't. Peacekeeper making you dance, you know I'm the GOAT. Champion squad, every time we go, this legend control. I climb to the top, no matter the toll. I climb to the top, no matter the toll. I'm throwing out cans, I'm betting you won't. Peacekeeper making you dance, you know I'm the GOAT. Champion squad, every time that we go, this legend control. I climb to the top, no matter the toll.
Yeah, hey, I climb to the top.
I climb to the top, no matter the toll. Take a look at the scoreboard. I thought that you would do more. I'm giving this my everything. I'm the best that you have ever seen. I'm starting. I'm going in. Where is my day? Nobody slays like I slay. Come on, girl. Nobody slays like I slay. This is my world. Nobody slays like I slay. Come on, girl. Nobody slays like I slay. This is my world. Nobody slays like I slay. This is my world. I'm starting. I'm going Ooh, like the 301 hum, bats of bullets off your chest till the armor falling off. Oh god, all this gas making you cough, feeling caustic when I drop, leave your body in a pile, let it rot. Shield cells got a lot, watch you move, you a bot, watch you fade like a thought. Skull town where I bang, watch your life, watch your drain, never getting off the train, never drop another game, yeah. 301 in my hands, different drop, same plan. To my squad, I'm the man, I'ma win this, no I can't. Sending shots, no spam, accurate, watch them slam, watch them run while they can, make them slump. Give me the loot, take what I want, all of my rounds, a light like the sun, yeah I am the one, lighting you up. R301, you're all that I need, you're all that I want. We at the top, act like we scum, taking your life and leaving the crumbs. Do what we want, we get the dub, living that life, yeah R301. I got the sides, H-Cog, mega stabilized, no rock. Standing mad, more shots, standing stock, ready pop. I got the sides, H-Cog, mega stabilized, no rock. Standing mad, more shots, standing stock, ready pop. Ooh, like the 301 hum, bats of bullets off your chest till the armor falling off. Oh god, all this gas making you cough, feeling caustic when I drop, leave your body in a pile, let it rot. Shield cells got a lot, watch you move, you a bot, watch you fade like a thought. Skull town where I bang, watch your life, watch your drain, never getting off the train, never drop another game, yeah. Ooh, like the 301 hum, bats of bullets off your chest till the armor falling off. Oh god, all this gas making you cough, feeling caustic when I drop, leave your body in a pile, let it rot. Shield cells got a lot, watch you move, you a bot, watch you fade like a thought. Skull town where I bang, watch your life, watch your drain, never getting off the train, never drop another game, yeah. Like the 301 hum, bats of bullets off your chest till the armor falling off. Oh god, all this gas making you cough, feeling caustic when I drop, leave your body in a pile, let it rot. Shield cells got a...
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Series E Roster Mania. My name is Yeso. I'll be your host today. I'm joined right now by Luke Shimona Hebrew to talk about what we got going on here today. Of course, taking a little break here at the mid-season point of Season 4 of Apex Legends, and I've got Luke here to talk about it. Luke, talk to me about what exactly Roster Mania is all about.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. It's Roster Mania halfway through the season. So a standard season, of course, being 16 weeks now. So we just crossed that 8-week mark, allowing us to take a little break, if you will, for a multitude of reasons. But, we found that previously in our first couple Series E seasons for Apex, it was about 12 weeks long, and that was a pretty decent amount of time, but I guess the percentage of teams that would make it full 12 weeks without any type of roster swap or change or full team swap even was pretty low. Like we were seeing a lot of turnover, especially with Series E's teams being more of, amateur teams who are sometimes forming in the league itself, practicing together, different things like that. A lot of times we do see those rosters change, which, there's nothing wrong with that, but we wanted to, I guess technically lengthen the seasons, but we wanted to put a point in the middle of that season where now it's only 8 weeks that you would go with the same team, and then it kind of gives us a stopping point to, player fatigue, switch out the rosters, update you guys at home with kind of what's been going on, because it can be hard to track all these different players swapping between all these different brands. But overall, it's we're halfway through with the season. It's been great so far. A lot of things have happened, so I'm definitely glad that we're here today for Roster Mania, and excited just to have a fun show.
Yeah, definitely a ton of storylines to discuss. I will have my good friend Zephyr joining me on the show in a little bit to discuss really all of the big storylines and everything going on with all of those teams that have made adjustments throughout the season, breaking down our thoughts on these moves and kind of which direction we think all of these teams are trending. So super excited about that. But we are, as Luke mentioned, at that halfway point in the season. So we still have 8 weeks in front of us. I only have you on here for a short bit, Luke, so I do want to take the opportunity to put you on the spot a little bit. Of course, Vizio has been crushing it. They have about a 200-point lead over second place at the top of the standings. You've got to pick one team that has the best shot at challenging Vizio for the Season 4 title. Who you taking?
That's an easy one for me.
Okay.
I would say that everyone knows I'm a Razer man at
Yes.
heart. I'm Team Razer through and through, and I tend to be rooting for Team Razer throughout the seasons. Obviously, it's been kind of a wild season with Razer, with obviously Malice Mamba heading over to CLG, which is great, kind of like rebuilding that roster out. So those boys are doing it, but they're not going to be my pick. Okay, my real pick is going to be my last standing fantasy member, Kimchi Lee over at Team Excedrin. Those guys, I really feel like have had some really, really strong performances. I feel like consistency has been a little here and there with them, but overall, I feel like they're continuing to grow as a roster, and Kimchi Lee's a fragger. So I would say if any team can get there and crawl their way to take that first place slot away from Vizio, it would definitely be Team Excedrin.
Okay, we'll have to see. I was definitely on the Team Excedrin train early on in the season. I've wavered a little bit, but I will say they're one of the teams that we won't be digging into today because they've kept that roster together, have been consistent. So I think that does bode well for them, and we'll see how they can carry that over into the second half of the season. We do have 4 teams, though, that we do want to talk about today, and we'll be really getting into the thick of it with all of them, as well as player interviews. I had the opportunity to sit down with all of the teams we're talking about today, talk about the changes they've made, their expectations, their goals through the second half of the season, and I'm looking forward to all of you getting to hear what those players and teams had to say. So let's get into it, folks. We're kicking off Roster Mania here as we've hit the halfway point of the season. Let's get into it.
All right, what's up, everyone? We're here for draft day. Welcome back, Kimchi Lee. Good to have you. Cruise in. Boom. Oh, is it Nerf? Is it Nerf? Boom! Excedrin. Congratulations.
Yeah, pretty excited.
Yeah, you're excited.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Boom! Nerf. That's why you're excited. That Excedrin. Boom! Team Splash there. Oh, it's green. It's green in the studio. Congratulations, fellas. You guys are now Team Razer. Who would have guessed it? Already. Intel, Vizio. What do we got? Oh, yeah. Vizio. Oh, Team Intel. Congratulations, Team CMP. You see this? They're in the Intel production room.
Oh, I know it's gonna be a really big surprise to everybody, but I am in fact moving to TSM.
What? Hey! Hold on a minute. Wait, what's going on?
Anything. They're leaving themselves in the same position afterwards with less cooldowns. Intel, however, going on the push, maybe putting themselves in a better position. Mooney's on single-digit HP with only a little bit of shield left, but Cody is breaking out the flatline.
We're on the verge of going Vizio's way as they try to chase down the last member. It's Mooney falling here. Vizio.
They've lost out on Dank, who I've been so impressed with throughout all of these skirmishes, but Blight masterfully using that knockdown shield. Great grenade there is going to answer and respond, and a nice flank over through the door, but it doesn't.
Barton, it's the worst possible time. We're down to the top 3. CL going out now, but with Intel still around, they're trying to roll up, take on TSM, and find potentially their win. Intel may just be our first partner squad to win a game. It is their game as the ring closes in. Cody thinks about dropping, but Mooney is the one to full send it here, finishing off the game, finishing off that last couple squads. Intel take that win.
Are multiple nades. Vizio are looking really confident. Looks like he wanted to close the gap. Both bubbles already out. Peacekeeper gonna hit for 40. This man's going up. That's 109 beautiful shots coming out of Fury.
Now the bubble has been used, and we'll see if another team ends.
That it is, but they've taken way too much damage, and here comes the bombardment. They had to use a bubble already, and now we touch Grasher coming in for the collapse. They're gonna lose their gimme player. Oh my gosh, their Bloodhound losing all their life as well, and that's gonna be it. Currently 16 squads, Manians are now on point with Nerf. Beautiful R3O. One shot's whipping out the Peacekeeper, hoping to finish that player off. The bubble's gonna go down, but luckily he has teammates that are running right into it. Looks like a Caustic player getting really aggressive right there, running into 2 additional players, and now Nerf are the ones in a bad situation. Caustic's gonna go down. Looks like a Valkyrie plays
the eastern side of the map. Team Intel, oh no, getting into their second fight, and things are already going bad for them, but it's a 1-for-1. And there it is. Pow cleans it up. And to be Clarify getting the knock on to one member as 100 Thieves playing this one out as a duo right now. But they are fragging out. They're charging forward to get these kills. And 100 Thieves might be able to do it again. There they go. They don't take any damage up against TSM. Liquid now find themselves inside the gas. They force out the bubble here. And take a look at that. Esports Arena take almost no damage and finish them off. Esports Arena will take the
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, here to Series E.
Series E Apex Legends.
Here at Esports Arena back in 2022.
Now the engagement's coming in, and it looks like all of last are going to be going down. These 2 out of 3 players. Looks like Valkyrie the final player alive, but Vizio coming out on top. Storm is coming in, as you said here. Eccentric now they want to drop down, actually put down the damage. 95 to the Valkyrie who's flying up. However,
The only saving grace for TBA on the other side is that they've got the barrels down, and Sung is able to take out Petty Boss. But here comes Cody answering back. It's down to a 1v1 now. Cody.
It all began with Apex Legends, and we are in the heart of our 4th season right now.
Scissors could be going in for the win.
He just needs the melee. He just needs the melee. He is literally one shot, but he doesn't realize it. He's trying to go for the wingman. There we go. Hits for the 9. How is he still alive?
Bull is going to go down. Communication needs to be big time in the favor of Razer. It looks like they have this one under control. Mistake, and he's going to have to drop eventually. I love the kill on over towards the ground. Great presence of mind from Nerf.
As long as they can, they throw in that Nox gas grenade and actually get the bubble on the height, not giving them nearly as much safety as they would like. Both Valkyries flying for as long as they possibly can, but on the low ground, it is Splash that are coming out on top, and as Messiah comes back down, or running late, they're trying to get just a little bit of loot outside, but they end up losing double O negative in the process. Full sending with the PK now. You know Exedrin were ready.
And now here is Nerf pushing up. Verholst goes down. It's a 3v1 Nerf up against Designful, but they've instantly turned around on the turns, almost falls, but Designful.
But as soon as you're sponsored, that first few tournaments, you don't do as well. Yeah, it's because of the pressure.
Razer. I think this is their game.
Yeah, this is the comeback that I love to see. Razer getting all their members on board. You see the alternator, you see them surround the truck. There's no one to throw. Why are you running? Here they go, Razer!
Ooh, Intel is also running into a squad directly. I don't know about this one. This might be a tough battle here. Ooh,
no, but
Fearless actually putting down.
That's here what Series E is all about, and what Esports Arena is all about too, is creating that opportunity for you, the player, to become recognized and to become a professional player in esports.
Yeah.
In the process, as Razer has made their appearance, so many squads taking control over this building alone. Razer getting all their members on board. You see the alternator, you see them surround the truck. There is no one to throw. Why are you running? Here they go, Razer!
Team Nerf is just setting up perfectly with these wingman shots connecting from Dimmy. I don't think there's a chance.
Side, but they've got the defense against drops like that, and they do a great job of it. Turns there with that 301, just beaming this one out. Another squad.
This Arc Star that Casellas just tossed out, so that could spark the rest of this fight.
Oh, look at this now, though, with the Arc Star. Nice toss in there. What a...
There was a handful of different grenades, frags all over the place. That was Nestle Splash coming through, trying to put the hurting on, and it looks like they are going to be able to do so. Great PK shots coming in from Senpai.
Now by Razer, who moved in for the third party. Now Intel have to deal with a third party in this next game, but look at Fearless. Does this man miss? This is a 2v1, but he loses the shield in the process.
Gibby looks like he's going for a potential red, which could be a play, could not be a play. Look at that, he's going to jump through. Hits the play before the Arbor Swamp, drops the other one, grabs the banner. It's Fearless.
An awesome look there at all of the action we've gotten to see here through the first 8 weeks of the season. And of course, we have 4 teams that we really want to dig deep into here today. Of course, they're teams that have made roster changes throughout these first 8 weeks of the season. And the 2 we won't really be discussing, Vizio and Exedrin. They've kept those rosters together. They've kept it rolling. But the first one we're going to talk about today is Team Razer. We saw quite a few good highlights there in that little package, and we've got a few more here to look at before I bring in my first guest. So let's take a look here as Razer, coming into this point of the season, has been a bit of a struggle for them so far. Ups and downs as we take a look here with Fearing Live, Bursty, and Dresav for Team Razer. Right now sitting just south of 400 points behind first place Team Vizio, and not having any single night wins under their belt this season. And of course, this is a Razer team coming from quite an impressive legacy in Series E. When you think back, Team Razer, of course, was the Season 1 champions, and the roster that included Zeratricky and Mr. Hakulo, obviously consistently switching up their thirds through the first 3 seasons, were still consistent threats for the top of the standings. And of course, those players left for a pro organization briefly. But I'm now happy to welcome in my friend Zephyr to dig deeper here into the Razer story as we start off the day. Zephyr, welcome to the show. How we doing, my man?
I'm doing pretty great. Happy to be back, and more than happy to discuss the legacy and the kind of storylines that have developed for a lot of these teams here at Esports Arena.
Definitely, and of course we're starting here with Team Razer, and definitely a difficult team to start with them sitting at the bottom of the standings right now. They are exactly at this point 392 points behind first place. The nice thing about this longer season is it does mean they still have 8 weeks to try and make up that gap. But the hard part is you have a hard time buying into the fact that Vizio is going to give them the opportunity to make up a near 400-point gap. What are your thoughts here on Razer as we look towards the back half of the season?
I'll clarify this. I know we love to compare against Vizio, but technically, if we're talking about what they have to do to make it in past relegation, it's only, 150 or so points. So while we are always going to be looking at the big dogs at the very top, technically, 150 really isn't that far away for a team like Razer. And we'll discuss what kind of changes came about, especially with Fearing Live here. But even at the start of their season with Malice Mamba, prior towards his rotation to CLG, they still had a level of consistency that I think personally can net them a lead once they kind of get into a groove here. I think it's been too short to really get a good notion of what Razer is capable of on the long term.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and it is important to mention the loss of Malice Mamba. Of course, we are here to talk about the changes that these teams have made from a roster perspective this season. So to note, they did come into the season. It was a trio of Drasav, Malice Mamba, and Bursty. If memory serves, this was the Buff Pathfinder roster that qualified for Pro League. So this was a team that not only with the performances that they had in the qualifiers for Series E, but with what they were doing outside of Series E in ALGS qualifiers and all that stuff, had built up, I would say, quite a considerable amount of hype. And with Malice Mamba leaving in the early part of the season, it would seem like that had a huge effect on the strength of this roster, because of course the change that they made, Malice Mamba leaves, joins the CLG roster that has been kind of rebuilt over there, and they bring in Fearing Live, who was playing with Team Nerf at the start of the season, now joins Drasav and Bursty here on Razer. And those are some big shoes to fill, it would seem. Malice Mamba was a big part of why they were performing well in the ALGS, and making some noise over there was a big part of why they were so strong in qualifiers. And losing that kind of talent is not easily replaceable, and it leaves some big shoes to fill for Fearing Live.
And it's tough to make predictions based off of what we've seen recently, but I can say this here. Coming out of week 6, this was one of the best performances that we actually got out of the Razer roster, I believe placing within the top 5 for the first time in since the beginning of the season. And thankfully, when we start looking about points as a whole here for our sponsored teams, it technically was the 3rd highest scoring point finish when in comparison to both Splash and Excedrin, who they are technically competing to get past here, even though they're in a relegation spot. Pull out something like that again, and I could see them potentially surpassing, finding their way back into that top 3 there.
Yeah, I would say when I look at this Razer roster, I think they have done some good things this season, and we even got to see them quite a few times in that nice little highlight package, recapping the first 8 weeks of the season, getting some good wins, making some aggressive plays. But for me, I can think of, for the other 5 teams in Series E, I can think of nights where either they've won on a pro night or an open night, or at the very least I've said, dang, Nerf or Excedrin or Splash is like a real threat to win tonight. Even if they don't grab that top spot, I thought, dang, they look like they're in form to have a shot to win, and it doesn't quite work out in the end. when I look at Razer, there have been those kind of singular games that I've been like, dang, they look really good there.
It's a good game.
In a night as a whole, I've never been like, wow, like people better watch out. Razer's like coming for the top spot. So I feel like I need them to find that next level to where I feel like you are dangerous not in just a single game, but in a night or a week as a whole to really take that next step. Kind of what we saw from Team Intel a few weeks ago, which we will, of course, get into a little later.
Yeah. Right. I think the word that we'll bring up several times here tonight, because it just means so much, not only to these teams, but Apex as a whole, is going to be consistency. And I'd hate to say it, but Razer is probably the most inconsistent roster out of the 6 that we currently have. And while you said, there's those promising gamer moments, or on my end of the spectrum, week 6 being their most notable performance of the season thus far, it's not going to be enough to potentially push past that. But hey, it's the halfway point. This is where you have that kind of mental reset. The team reapproaches it, and hopefully now that Storm Point is kind of coming into the mix, maybe they'll have a better performance, right? Sometimes a little bit of a massive change is enough. Yeah, a little bit of an oxymoron there. A little bit of a massive change is enough to potentially save face here.
We'll have to see. The nice thing, though, is that I had the opportunity to sit down with some of the Razer boys last week to talk about them, with them, the changes that they made, what are their expectations, what is their confidence level going into the back half of the season. So let's take a look at what they had to say. All right, everybody, I am now joined by Fearing Live, the newest member of Team Razer this season. Fearing Live, thanks so much for joining me, my man. How are we doing today?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Excited to get to talk to you guys today. Let's just kind of get into it. Of course, it is the Roster Mania show, so we're talking about all the different changes that teams have gone through over the last 8 weeks or so. Obviously, you started the season with Team Nerf. Now you're on Team Razer. I'm really wondering, why did you feel like Razer was going to be a good fit for you after parting ways with the Nerf roster that you started the season with?
I've been playing with the Razer boys since console, so for 2.5 years at least we've been playing together. So just the chemistry's there, and just the vibes overall are just there. So
good vibes are important, of course, when you're going to be playing together this consistently, so that's really good. When you came into the roster, I mean, talk to me specifically about Bursty and Drasav and kind of what they each bring to the table that you really like and you think kind of brings the team together.
So we've been playing the game for like 2 years, so we know how each other play. It's just the chemistry.
Sure.
Sometimes I can know what they're doing without them even having to say it, and that's just important because it can clean up comms and you can actually hear some stuff in fights.
That's obviously important for sure. Go ahead.
Both of them are highly skilled individuals.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to talking to them as well. So we're going to take a sec, bring in Drasav and Bursty right now. We'll talk to all you guys, so we'll be right back. All right, everybody. Now we have the full Team Razer roster in here with us now. Bursty, Fearing Live, and Drasav, and we're talking Roster Mania, of course, all the adjustments that teams have made throughout the season. So, Bursty, I want to start with you. It's been a difficult season for Razer, honestly, so far. You guys currently sit in last place. What have been the biggest challenges for you guys as a team to overcome through the first half of the season?
I mean, yeah, man, it's tough. It's tough always switching teammates, and obviously we're playing with Mamba for a while. We got our chemistry up. And I mean, Liv was saying, we do all know each other from Exos. We've been playing for a little bit. So just getting the rhythm, getting the chemistry down for all these team fighting, especially on pro nights, rotating, and just playing together, it's just what we have to work on. But to overcome that, I feel like we can definitely overcome that second half of the season, especially with the new meta changes and whatnot. Caustic being gone. And Maggie in. So
something tells me you guys aren't going to be the only ones cheering for Caustic possibly going away with the changes in Season 12. So we'll have to see how things shake out on that front. Drasav, I want to come to you. You guys made the earliest, honestly, roster change of the season when Malice left, ended up joining CLG. Do you feel like that hurt your team's ability to build kind of any sort of momentum at the start of the season when you're making a change so early on?
Yeah, it was tough because in Pro League, you know, we played Pro League the whole split with Mamba. We got a lot of chemistry down. We played the qualifiers with him. So we got the rhythm down with our rotations and what we expect of each other in each team fight. And then, of course, CLG hit him up, which I don't blame him at all for taking the opportunity. I'm happy for him. We've been friends for 2 years. And we had to find a replacement quick, and Liv was looking to change rosters because Nerf wasn't really a good fit for them. So, and we've been friends with them for 2 years, like we said, from console. So we thought it was a good time to try and bring him in because my time for Gibby was going to an end because I absolutely hate playing Gibby. So it was good bringing Liv in on Gibby and putting me on and Bursty on Fraggard.
Sounds like a win-win, honestly, across the board. Everybody kind of gets what they're looking for there, so that's good to hear. Fearing, what is your confidence level going into the second half of the season? You guys have talked about building that chemistry, starting to get that momentum going. There's still plenty of weeks to play, so despite being down at the bottom of the standings, you guys are still right in the running and have plenty of time to work on it. So how confident are you that you guys can turn things around here in the second half?
So over the past 2 weeks we played, our comms have been getting a lot better, a lot more just fluid, I guess. They're just rolling out instead of just no comms happening at all. And then switching from Nerf going to Razer, just how the comms worked, it's a whole different world, and just IGLing from how they IGL compared to how Nerf would. It's a bit of a learning curve, but I think I'm getting used to it now. And I feel like we might be able to come back.
He's got a lot of confidence going in this season.
That's good. That's good. I'm looking forward to it. Of course, playing as Team Razer, that's big shoes to fill when you look at the first 3 seasons of Series E and what Zera and Hack were able to do for Team Razer during that time. But I agree. I think you guys are trending in the right direction. I'm looking forward to following you guys during the second half. I wish you guys the best of luck. So thanks so much for joining us and talking with me today, gentlemen, and best of luck the rest of the season.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we're going to go back to more roster Mania action here in just a few. Wow, that interviewer looks really good. He's got kind of nice full beard. I gotta reach out, get some notes. That was some notes and some thoughts there from Team Razer. Zephyr. Anything jump out to you there? And we were talking about those small, huge meta changes. One thing noted there, the Caustic possibly drifting out of the meta, maybe a Razer buff. Anything jump out to you?
I like the fact that the mental is still there and that they're willing to support each other. And I actually thought it was really interesting that Fearing made some points, especially about how things are a little bit different regarding Nerf, and that he feels a little more comfortable now on that Razer roster. But it is clear to me that they are still trying to piece what makes them tick together. And hopefully the Season 12 changes, the map change, as well as every other team kind of being all over the place, might give them their shot.
Yeah, they're definitely going to have that opportunity, and seemingly with Fearing Live, hopefully finally really settling into the roster gives that opportunity to not only he but the whole team to find the success that they haven't been able to find through the first 8 weeks. Still a bit of work to do, but I think you make a great point there when you talk about them having that confidence and feeling like they are trending in the right direction is very important for them to find that success. So that is what we've seen from Team Razer here in the first part of the season. We're going to say goodbye to Zephyr here momentarily. We'll have him back in just a moment, but we are going to go to a quick break right now. But when we come back, we'll be talking Team Nerf, so don't go far.
Verses coming daily under pressure. Working on applying the scheme. The true side trademark is at the edge of your dreams. I'm talking. Yeah. One shot, now the future is yours. I'm turning dreams into reality. In the lab with the formula and chemistry. Your memories spark and motivate and make the industry shake. With the bars and the breaks, I'm talking one chance that was so good for the code. It's one shot, not a future is yours. Let's go.
All right, folks, we're back, and we're talking Team Nerf now. This is a squad that, had a rough early start, similar to Razer that we just talked about, but have seen a bit of a resurgence over the last 3 to 4 weeks in Series E. Have seemingly found form after the roster changes that they made, and seemingly have incorporated those players a lot more easily than Razer did. So let's take a look at some of the action that they've done throughout this early part of the season. Of course, looking ahead towards 8 more weeks of play, and Turns, who is a Series E veteran, looking to get Force and Demi in and kind of pumping on all cylinders this season as they get ready to try and challenge the top of the table. Of course, they're feeling pretty good and are in a position to at least hold on to their spot going into the next season. But knowing Turns, he definitely has his eye set on the top of the table, and we'll have to see if Nerf can chase them down. But let's take a look at some of the plays from Nerf here at the start of the season, and then we'll bring in my friend Zephyr here to talk about them. Of course, Turns, if you remember, played on Splash last season that struggled. Played with Malice Mamba back then, and that was a roster that didn't seem to quite ever find their footing last season. Had flashes of brilliance, but not the consistency that Zephyr has talked about being so important in a competition like this. But seemingly, this new roster has found that consistency that's so important. Force and Demi have come in and incorporated very well right off the bat, and it's why Nerf very quickly became a threat in Series E, even just after the roster changes were made. And Turns seemingly has the squad, in the right spot and ready to try and take over here. Still plenty of work to do, but we'll have to see what they can do as the season continues. But I'm welcoming Zephyr back into the studio here to talk about Nerf. And of course, there's a bunch of teams here in Series E. We've got 6 competing, and our loyalties go different ways. We're rooting for some players, not for others. Where you kind of stand on Nerf? How do you like this roster?
I think I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a big Nerf supporter. Obviously, Vizio takes, the top cake, but the growth that I've seen, especially covering them here over the course of these last kind of 4 to 5 weeks, whenever I've had the opportunity to fill for Series E, has given me the reason why I like to support this team, especially because I don't think people really remember the fact that when we talk about Splash or Intel, Nerf was right there kind of treading the line back and forth between relegation, especially through weeks 1 through 5. They were not up. But once they finally kind of settled into it, they have had the best performance compared to any other roster past Vizio here. And I will happily support that theory.
Yeah, for context, for everybody at home, Nerf has been the second best Series E partnered squad on Pro Nights this season. Vizio has gotten 305 of their points on Pro Nights this season. Nerf just 7 points behind Vizio, and I think that speaks to the direction that this roster is trending in. When the toughest competition comes out, Nerf is playing, I would say, essentially just as good as Vizio on Wednesday night, and that is a good sign. Of course, there's a very stark difference in play when you compare open night to pro night, a little more chaos. You know, it's not as simple to just say, hey, well, you did good on pro night, right? You should just be able to dominate open night, but the lobby just does not play out in the same way. That extra bit of chaos is difficult to sort out. You would hope that a team that can perform against the pros can just do the same in that lobby, but it is not as simple of a translation there. But I think what we have seen in terms of consistency from Nerf over those last few weeks that you mentioned, Zephyr, is a key indicator that this team has figured out what works for them, and just being able to then execute on that every single night of the week is the key for them really taking that next step.
And what's the craziest part about the Nerf roster, which we're going to get into it here in a second, is the fact that they've had some of the most monumental changes when we talk about the switches from player to player, not only changing once, but I believe twice during their time here at Series E. And it wasn't to, you know, oh, well, we have 2 years of experience, we played on a team prior to this. No, yeah. I mean, when we go towards Force and Dimmy and the rest of them, they were on 3 separate teams prior towards their combination here onto Team Nerf. And even then, with short changes, little time to fix things, they have come out on top of almost everyone else here, which is the most remarkable fact of all.
Yeah, and I think it's an important point to make that, of course, the original roster to start the season was Fearing Live, Turns, and Messiah. Of course, Fearing Live now playing with Team Razer. Messiah was on the Splash roster for a while, now no longer competing in Series E. And Turns had to mix things up for a week, because it wasn't like there was just one week where it's like, okay, Fearing Live and Messiah are leaving this week. We're bringing in Force and Dimmy now. We can start working on it. There was kind of piecemeal replacements in there for a little while just to get a team competing before they could find that right permanent replacement. So it wasn't that quick cut, clean transition. They had to make things work for a while, then finally set this roster in stone and get them rolling. And I think it's really impressive that despite the kind of chaos that they had to deal with from a roster perspective in those kind of 3 to 6 week range, that they've been able to adjust quickly, impress me very much. I mean, 2 second place finishes on pro nights behind G2 in back-to-back weeks. That is nothing to sneeze at. So I really like what I've seen from this Nerf roster, and I think this is, along with Intel, which again we will dig into later in the show, is a team that I very much have my eye on here at the midpoint of the season.
If only they could figure out how to make it work on open night, and I'm pretty sure they would be in first place right now. It was a celebration for us on desk when they actually came out on top of the following open night after 2 weeks of just superior pro play. I mean, like you said earlier, you'd be surprised, but it sometimes just doesn't transition.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't quite work. But let's take a look at that roster swap again. It was Fearing Live, Turns, and Messiah at the start of the season, but they have made a couple of changes here with both of those players departing for some different opportunities. But now it is Turns with Dimmy and Force there. You can see the roster on your screen right now. Some good-looking gentlemen there, and I got an opportunity to sit down with these gents as well, Dimmy and Force individually, and then the entire team together. So let's look at the first one of those individual interviews now. All right, everybody, we are talking to Team Nerf right now, and I'm joined by Force, one of the newest members on the Team Nerf squad. Force, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining me today. How are we doing?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Always excited. A pleasure. That's good. That's good. Excitement is good. We're, of course, talking roster mania, talking all the different teams and the different changes that they've made here in the season to try and, get something going, build a little bit of momentum. So, of course, you're one of the newest members here to the Nerf roster. How did you find your way onto the team working here with Turns?
I used to team with Turns like in the beginning of Apex, so he basically just knew me, and I've known him for like years, way before Apex, but he's just a good friend of mine, so he heard I was looking for a team and just hit me up.
Good. Glad to hear the timing worked out. And of course, you guys have looked pretty good so far. What do you feel like is the biggest reason that you guys have gelled so well so quickly this season?
I don't know. Probably just experience. Most of the time, it's just me and Turns kind of going back and forth on what we should do, and we've both played the game since release, so we just kind of know what to do most times, and yeah, just seems to work pretty well.
It's definitely looked really good during Series E competition, so excited about that. Glad you guys are coming together well. We're going to take a quick moment here. We're going to bring Dimmy in and talk to him before we talk to the whole team, so we'll be right back. All right, everybody, we are now joined by the other newest member of Team Nerf. I've got Dimmy joining me today. Dimmy, thanks so much for taking the time. How are we doing today?
Doing great. I'm excited to be here.
Excited to have you. Excited to get a little bit of insight on what's been going on with Team Nerf so far this season. Of course, you, along with Force, the newest members here joining turns on Team Nerf. How did you end up in this situation? How did you find yourself working with Force and turns?
They just randomly DM'd me, and I thought it was a great opportunity to join them on the team. I've known about Force and Turns for a while now. They've been in the community for a long time, so I'm actually really excited to team with two MKers who have been playing Apex competitively for so long, because I'm new to the scene.
Yeah, that experience is obviously incredibly important. What else alongside that experience do you feel like are the big reasons why you guys have gelled so well so quickly? Because it feels like it hasn't taken long for you guys to just hit the ground running.
For me, it just seems like their experience is just top notch. It just feels so great to team with two people who have so much knowledge in Battle Royale, and it feels great to just go out there and shoot my gun just for them. Just that's all I gotta do.
You just go out there and be the roller player, just fill that role. That's good. Hey, that's awesome to hear. We are going to take a sec and bring everybody in and talk to the whole Nerf team, so we'll be right back. All right, everybody, I'm now joined by the entire Nerf roster. Of course, Turns, a face you guys should recognize. Plenty of experience here in Series E. Turns, I want to come to you first. You are the only remaining member of the original roster that became Team Nerf on draft day. How has this season felt for you with all the roster changes and now seemingly getting your feet under you as a team?
I think overall, our team has just gotten better, and everything happens for a reason. So I've just been down with everything that's been happening, and just taking it one step at a time.
Dimmy, you guys have a few second place finishes over the last few weeks. How close do you think you guys are to kind of getting over the proverbial hump and snagging some first place finishes? Do you even really care about falling short in those performances, or does it maybe just feel like there's, just a few lucky breaks that are the difference between first and second with the way you guys have been playing?
I think it's just a matter of time. I think we're so close, we're right there. I think one of these next few could definitely be it. It's just the right day. We're gonna show what we can do.
And I got to imagine
Force has a curse.
Oh no, you hate to hear that, but I can't imagine it feels too bad to come in second place to a team like G2, right? With that kind of pedigree, history, and of course that kind of organization. That can't feel too bad, right?
Not bad at all.
Yeah, not bad at all.
That's a good place to be.
We can take them though.
Exactly. Force, last question to you. Vizio has clearly been the best team through the first half of the season. When you look at the rest of the Series E partner teams, who do you think your biggest competition will be really in the second half trying to take down Vizio? Of course, they built that lead, but it seems like, who are you competing with to try and chase them down?
Yeah, I think it's probably Team Intel with Petty Boss and them. They've been pretty aggressive lately and putting on a pretty good performance. So I think it's probably them. Pretty scary.
But you guys aren't going to have any trouble keeping them down, right? The conversation is really just you guys and Vizio, right? Okay.
Definitely not. It's just like they're the other ones, We have to just kind of like keep them at bay, pretty much.
For sure. Hey, I'm looking forward to the continued charge. It's been fun to watch you guys fragging out the last few weeks, and I'm looking forward to more in the second half of the season. Thanks so much for joining me today, gents, and best of luck.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that was Team Nerf. We've got more coming, so we'll be right back. Awesome to get to sit down with Team Nerf there. And one of the things that really stood out to me the most, Zephyr, in that interview was, we were talking about what were the elements that played into this team really hitting the ground running early. And I think Force pointed it out, the experience that he already had in competing with Turns, and then really it's just incorporating Dimmy into the roster because there's already that built-in chemistry with Turns and Force, and it seems like they've been able to do that very successfully so far.
I know I've only seen the one interview thus far from Razer, but I can already tell you, I can feel the gel. It's as smooth as butter when we talk about the relationships that have formed here between the three, and I think it'll carry them well. What I was really most surprised about was the fact that they're looking to keep Intel at bay moving forward here, when honestly, I think they've got a shot to take it all away here, usurp the throne that Vizio currently holds on to. I don't think Intel... Well, we'll get to it when we talk about Intel, but I don't think Intel going to be giving them much trouble there. I think there's a lot more confidence that they could have looking forward.
Oh, so Zephyr very much on the Nerf
biased
hype train right now. That's interesting. You know what? I didn't expect you to be more on the Nerf hype train than the Intel hype train with the results we've seen. But hey, I think there's a lot of things to like about Nerf. They're feeling good about the way that they've been playing, and they're definitely trending in the right direction. So love to hear that. We're going to say goodbye to Zephyr here once again as we get ready for another break. But the next team we're going to be talking about is Intel. So we won't have to wait long to hear Zephyr's full thoughts on that roster. But right now, let's go to a break. When we come back, we'll break down our next team. All right, we're back and we're talking Team Intel now, one of the contenders to try and chase down Vizio at the top of the standings. They had one of the best single night performances we have ever seen in Series E a few weeks ago with a 117-point showing on an open night, and they're looking to build off of that performance as we head into the back half of the season. Let's take a look at some of the plays we've seen from Intel this season. Of course, a team, you talk about Razer and the kind of pedigree that comes before the season and the shoes that they have to fill. Intel in a very similar spot. Of course, Team Intel won Season 3 of Series E, then went on to become Team Esports Arena and perform at the next level in the ALGS. And even the season prior to that, Season 2, Team Intel went on to get signed by Ghost Gaming and have performed very well in the professional scene there as well. So Intel, definitely the team second to Team Razer in terms of that pedigree from a roster. A lot of big shoes to fill as we bring back Zephyr to talk about Intel. You're big on Nerf, but you're not quite as hot on Team Intel. Tell me why, Zephyr.
I was about to say, I feel like I'm going to get a lot of hate from someone, maybe you potentially, given
okay,
how
I'm
hard
ready.
you're
Let's
amping
go.
this point up. But no. I'm a man of statistics. I'm a man of math here. And when we talk about the averages that, Intel is putting out there, you bring up some good points regarding the absolute massive margins, 117. This last recent week being, I think, 148 from Intel. I mean, these are huge. But overall, that is only a few points separating them from where we currently see a team like Nerf at, which they themselves have actually beaten out Intel 5 weeks in a row before the last and most recent week here. Had they not had such an incredibly standout performance, Nerf would be in their position.
I think you make a great point there, and I'm a man of the stats as well. Let's talk about, of course, the roster adjustments that they have made. When you go back to the start of the season, Intel kicked it off with Cody, Mooney, and Petty Boss. The one change that they have made since then, they've brought in Fearless to replace Cody alongside Mooney and Petty Boss. So those are the adjustments that they have made in terms of the roster. I find an interesting dichotomy, and I think it is a nice way to compare to Razer, for example, when you talk about the kind of player that you have to replace in a roster. And we talked about with Malice leaving Team Razer, those are big shoes to fill. That's kind of that leading fragger, star player that you have to fill in for. Meanwhile, when you look at Intel, it's more of the supporting cast that you're looking to fill out there, because Petty Boss has been that leader, right? Has been crushing it in the statistical department that you love to look at. Second in kills, second in average damage, second in assists in all of Series E. So you're looking to fill in just the supporting cast, but it feels like, to me, as difficult as it can be to find that right star player, I feel like the chemistry is so important with the supporting cast that sometimes that can be a more complex role to replace and fill when you're making these roster adjustments. What do you think?
I think I mean, we've talked about gelling and finding that kind of pace between team all night long. So I think it's definitely a valid point here. And I'm not going to retreat on my support for Nerf, but I do want to point out that Intel is a fantastic team.
Yes.
Okay. I think even with the statistics that I have brought up here, when they do truly shine, they have been a fantastic addition to Series Z. And I think what's really nice about Fearing being added to this roster is he's done nothing but enable Petty Boss, especially in these recent weeks. This is some of the best performance that we have seen out of Petty thus far, especially with his recent switch towards Horizon coming into Season 12, something that I didn't expect was really going to work or make such a statement here. And in turn has been a monumental move that has kind of pushed Intel towards the top here once again before our half.
Yeah, we'll have to see what they can continue. Of course, I talked about it in the aftermath of that 117-point night, that we don't need to see them putting up 100-plus points, once a week, once every 2 weeks. That's okay. You don't need to come out every night and put up those kinds of performances, but we're going to continue to hammer in consistency, because we've already talked about it with the first two teams, because it is important, and it is especially important when you look at a 16-week long season, right? You're not going to be able to have those pop-off performances all the time. Vizio's 4-week run dominating Open Night is so difficult to replicate, right? But it's about that consistency, about continually putting points up on the board, even when you don't have that best night. Even if you're not getting into the top 5, if you still grab 40 points that night, you get into a couple of late circles and make some plays, that is the kind of thing that is going to bode well for you as the season continues. And I need to see Intel continue to do that, because there was honestly a bit of a drop from them after that performance. I think they, we talk about 59 points average per night, but over the last 2 weeks, but that's inflated because of the 117-point performance, because they've averaged in the other 2 nights like 35 points, and that's okay. But I would like to see, if Intel really wants to take that next step and supersede a Nerf, like you have highlighted, I want to see that average per night up at around 48, 52. I feel like that's a spot where it's like, okay, now you're really starting to kind of take chunks out of those higher spots on the standings, and you're really starting to become a threat. So I think Intel, still some work to do, but at the very least, I think the foundation has been laid for this team to succeed.
I think the way I would sum it up then is the fact that this team probably has some of the highest highs out of any of the Series E rosters. When they are at their best, they look even better than the likes of Vizio here. But like you said, that's not something that we really want out of them. Well, okay, that's a terrible way to say that. We do want that.
Yes.
But we want a little bit more consistency on the lows from this squad, because when they are on the lows, you have other individuals even like Razer, Excedrin, and Splash, who are on the bottom end of relegation, who do manage to eke out a higher score on some nights. And if we're talking about being the best of the best, finishing off strong for the season as a whole, that just can't happen. So, hey, you can still have your 117 nights. I just need to see the rest kind of amp it up a little bit.
We're all about hitting those highs, but it's more realistic to ask for you to raise the floor. Get the floor a little higher. It's not realistic to be like, hey, I want 100, I want triple-digit performances once a week. Come on, let's go. So I think you make a very great point there, Zephyr. Obviously, another team that I got to sit down with here is Team Intel, so let's take a look back at what they had to say here at the midpoint in the season. All right, I am now joined by the newest member of the Team Intel roster, has been competing with them for a little while. James Fearless joining me today. James, how we doing, my man?
Doing good. How are you, my man?
I'm doing great. Excited to get to talk to you and Team Intel. Of course, we're hitting that middle of the season point. Wanted to kind of get the state of the teams and how everybody's feeling so far through 8 weeks. But I really want to start with you on how did you find your way onto this Intel roster, and how do you feel like things have been going early on?
So basically the way I found my way onto the roster is me and Mooney have, we've always been really good friends throughout since he started competing and I started competing again and stuff like that. So basically I just asked him and Petty, I was like, well, because I had a vacancy with my Pro League spot, because I technically have a Pro League spot. Me and Voltic, well, I didn't know what Voltic was going to do, so I was like, all right, well, and options are running low. Playoffs is about to happen. Do I want to wait till playoffs to pick somebody up, or do I want to just go ahead and get this cleared before playoffs even starts and stuff like that? So I just asked them. They said, yeah, of course, because, it's Pro League. Who doesn't want to be in Pro League? But and honestly, I saw the vision with our team, because I definitely could see that I could fit in well with Petty playing Gibby, Mooney being on like the support / second fragger role, and then I think it all just came together pretty much. It just came together as like a whole.
We are going to talk with your team more about Series E specific stuff, but I think you bring up a good point there, and I want to dig into it a little further. When you look at this roster and competing in Pro League, how confident are you that this team can really go in and do damage? Because that's a pretty stacked group of squads. It's kind of like Wednesday nights just on crack, because it's not just 20 of the best teams, it's 40, and that kind of competition is really, really difficult to do on a week-to-week basis. How confident are you that this team can go into the Pro League and succeed on a consistent basis, do kind of what we've seen the W squad do, even making it in the playoffs?
I definitely think I'm very confident with the squad going into Pro League lobbies, because Petty's ability to IGL in topper tier lobbies is way better than, obviously, like, it's whenever, like, if the quality of the lobby is going down, Petty doesn't really, like to IGL that much, because, like, we'll just, and like, basically, like, less stacked lobbies will basically be way more aggressive and force more fights on people, just for the simple fact that, we think we're way better than people, and I definitely think that us going into Pro League, we're definitely going to be a contender and definitely be a really good squad. Because I definitely think once we iron out, like, because we've already ironed out a majority of the issues that we've had, and I definitely think if we're continuing to play consistent and stuff like that, then we'll be perfectly fine. We'll just be trending upwards.
So do you feel like it's a situation where you guys play up to the level of your competition when you have those big boys in the lobby? It kind of brings the best out of your team?
Of course, yeah. I definitely think that's true, because Petty's ability to IGL in those lobbies and actually, like, get to use his IQ and stuff like that, and us all together collectively getting to use our IQ is way better, because in lower tier lobbies, kind of like the IQ drop off, because you never really predict what people are going to be doing. Much.
Awesome, awesome. I look forward to getting to see you guys compete there, as well as continuing to do what you've done so far in Series E. We are going to join your full team here momentarily, but I appreciate being able to get the insight from you, my man.
Of course, man. Thank you.
All right, let's join the full Team Intel here momentarily. All right, everybody, I am joined now by the Intel roster. I've got James Fearless Mooney and Petty Boss joining me today. Gentlemen, thank you for taking the time. Appreciate y'all jumping in during your busy schedules. How are we doing today?
Doing good. How are you, man?
Doing great. Just had a good weekend. Excited to be sitting down to talk with all of you. Of course, we've just hit the midpoint in the season and just wanted to have the opportunity to talk to you guys about what's changed through the first 8 weeks and how you're feeling going into the back half of the season. I want to start with you, Petty Boss. It's been honestly a roller coaster of a season for your team, and now you're the only remaining member of the original iteration of the CMP roster that started the Season 4 qualifiers. How are you feeling right now as you look back at the last few months of competition?
I was mainly, I'm just happy that like the roster's kind of stayed together for the most part. Like we haven't just like fully changed 2 players. Like I am the last player, but we've assimilated like 1 person at a time kind of to like our defaults and our landing spots, which was nice. I don't really think we've faltered in terms of placements. We've kind of just stayed at the same, which is totally fine when you switch players. It's like you're not going to go up. You have a chance of going down because like people don't know your strats, or it takes too long for people to learn stuff. But everything's been pretty like level for the most part when assimilating a new player, which is nice. So I think our only way to go is up from this point, which is a good stepping stone for like the new roster at least.
What is different about this current iteration of the roster compared to the original that you feel like has you guys trending in the right direction?
I think aim assist. We had triple M and K with Cody and Muffins, and now I got 2 controllers. So it's like our damage in fights is going to be way more consistent. Our overall like just aggressiveness is higher because typically I played on controller a couple times, and I know my confidence is super high. Just knowing I'm going to go into a fight and like instantly like output damage, not really miss too much, which is, very like possible on M&K. Having 3 M&K players means you have 3 possibilities of just like whiffing your whole clip or missing massive shots because of frame rate or, something. So just having that consistent damage is a big deal, and yeah, I'm excited.
Fearless, I want to come to you. It really feels like the team's kind of finally stepping into its own this season with the performance you guys had a couple of weeks ago. You still have a bit of a steep hill to climb, if we're being honest, to catch up to Vizio, who really crushed it in the first 4 weeks of the season. But how confident are you right now that Team Intel is going to be that squad to challenge Vizio and not really let them run away with a Season 4 title?
I definitely think that we're starting to come together perfectly, because just the first 2 weeks, or well, probably the first week, it took me to learn exactly what they wanted to do and like just play off of them, and then kind of finally like just come into like how my role was supposed to be on the team. And I definitely think that we're just trending upwards, and we're probably going to be able to contest them for sure. I definitely agree that we will, and I definitely think that we play very well whenever we're all firing on our own cylinders, doing everything correctly, and no hiccups.
Well, it seems like you guys are, as I said, trending in the right direction, and that's important at this point in the season. Mooney, I want to come to you. Fearless had a huge night for you guys on that big Tuesday night open night performance that you guys really crushed it. What is it about him that you like so much, and why do you feel like he's a good fit for the team?
There's a lot that he brought to the team, but he and I have some chemistry that we built before he joined the team. So him joining the team kind of opened up a lot of plays to be made more on the aggressive side, and he definitely is one of the best playmakers that I've played with. So I think having like a really good playmaker on the team and the aggressive role is it really opens up. It really opened up some things.
Petty Boss, I want to come back to you for the final question I have. Both you and Phony are in the top 3 in total kills so far this season, and are the only Series E players currently averaging over 1,000 damage per game. When you see that you're up there competing with someone who has not only been successful in Series E, but has also made his mark in the ALGS, how does that make you feel about the way that you're playing right now?
I think the kills part is pretty what's the word? It's like it's very displaying of skill because like finishing your kills is very important and just getting knocks in general, just like that's super impactful for your team. In terms of the damage count, I just use like charge rifle and longbow and snipers, and I just like poke people the whole game. So like that doesn't really like tell too much. It's more the kills that I think matters, and I think that's very good since both of us play Gibraltar, me and Phony.
Yeah.
That just means we have huge impacts on our teams, and it's literally like every time we have to kill Vizio, I literally just try to get that Gibby killed because he's like literally insane and probably their best player. So if I can just kill him, then like there's not really much competition for me besides Vizio at the moment. So yeah, it's very good.
And hey, you had that fragging power on top of now you got the 2 aim assist boys on the squad. As Fearless said, when you guys are firing on all cylinders, you can compete with Vizio. There you go. Fearless has got the controller ready to go. I appreciate you guys taking the time. Best of luck the rest of the season. Of course, still plenty more action to come, a lot more games for you guys to play. I love that you guys have really had that bump up over the last couple of weeks and seem ready to take that next step and try and take over the season. So best of luck in doing that and enjoy the rest of your time, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks.
Have a great rest of your day.
Team Intel. Thank you,
so
gents.
much.
That was the Team Intel boys. Let's get back to Roster Mania. A nice look there at Team Intel, and of course, not lacking confidence whatsoever. What jumped out to you, Zephyr, from what those boys had to say?
I think you bring up the exact word, confidence, the aggression, the fact that picking up Fearless compared to what we've seen tonight actually built upon and extended the win condition that Intel themselves knew them for, right? The fact that being added to the roster didn't slow them down. You know, it enhanced the fact that they were going to be able to get out there and take advantage of the skill set on both Mooney and Petty Boss. And I think that has been absolutely clear here in these last few weeks.
I also love a couple things that Petty Boss mentioned. One, the buff to the team by just getting more aim assist on the roster. He's just like, too much M&K. Exactly. Let's just get a couple of controller players here. We'll make it easy. I also love the point, too, where when he's talking about being compared to Phony, he's like, it feels good to be up there in kills, but he's just like, the damage is whatever. He's like, I have the charge rifle. I got the longbow. I'm not here just beating people. Yeah, no big deal. It's
he's right, though.
Who cares? Sure. I think he makes a good point that sometimes that damage stat needs a little bit more context for the playstyle, but still, I think Petty Boss has been one of the biggest surprise players for me this season in terms of just how good he has been. And I think if that continues and, now you have, again, Fearless and Mooney alongside him to make plays, this roster can be really good. I love the fact that it feels like, I know you're more to the Nerf side. I would say I'm a little more to the Intel side, but it feels like 2 teams really contending to take that next step and try and challenge Vizio.
Absolutely here.
I'm looking forward to it. We've got one more team to talk about, so we'll set Zephyr aside momentarily, say goodbye to him for a few more minutes as we get ready for Team Splash, the final roster that we're going to talk about here today on Roster Mania. But before we do that, we're going to a quick break. right, we're back once again to talk about the final team of the day. And of course, it is Team Splash, the roster that has undergone the most changes, honestly, this season and the most turmoil for sure. But we can take a look at a couple of the plays we've seen from Splash over the last few weeks. This was a roster that started the season with some hype, some very good talent, and some talent with a ton of experience in Series E. But of course, that roster has stepped aside and parted ways here with Series E, and now a roster very new and yet old joining Series E here to represent Splash for the rest of the season is 3 Series E veterans in Casellos, Prodigy Aces, and Oi Senpai. And they started strong, honestly. While they have yet to have one of the top placings you're looking for, they were able to win a game in their first night of competition here in Series E this season, which is certainly very impressive. They've definitely got some more work to do as the season continues, but this roster, of course, has certainly some pedigree in Series E. As Zephyr rejoins me in the studio to talk about one final squad. It is Splash, and a fresh Team Splash.
Yeah, fresh is definitely the word here. This is a tough one because they've got a ways to go. Now, I think I will clarify and say that these 3 players, of course, have seen play previously together, whether it be, I think, on Team Unlucky or Team KOP in the last few months. So they're not completely new to each other, which is hopefully something that we'll hear shortly in the interviews. But they are definitely new to the level of competition, running up against this specific group of players, whether it be an open and pro night. I think that in itself, even if you have, a little bit of the chemistry already there, is such a huge learning curve to go up against.
Yeah, we'll have to see how the season continues. Of course, this is a roster that only has 3 nights of experience under their belt as Team Splash in Series E this season. Do have to mention, of course, the original roster to start the season was Phoenix, Dracos, and Blight on Splash. Dracos ended up parting ways with the team, and they brought in Messiah, and then, of course, that roster left Series E, and now they've been replaced here by Casellos, Prodigy Aces, and Oi Senpai. But you do mention, that experience, and Oi Senpai was on Season 2 Rockstar, Prodigy Aces on Season 2 Applejacks, Casellos on Season 1 Pringles. So these players kind of taking a season off but making a return. Also do have to mention Prodigy Aces is a player with a wealth of experience in competitive Apex Legends, because this is a player that goes back to the original TSM roster with Hal, right? So this is not by any means a slouch. This is a guy who has a ton of experience in competitive Apex Legends, has played with some of the best players out there, and that can certainly be a wealth of knowledge that his teammates can rely on and help them succeed here. So we're definitely looking to see more, and even one of my notes on here says, not a ton of data to go on for this team. They've had a slow start, 37 points, 36 points, 16 points in their first 3 nights of competition, but I will say, with what I know specifically of Oi Senpai and Prodigy Aces, with what I saw from them in Season 2, these are very talented players, and I think there are the makings of a solid squad that can, at the very least, challenge for top 3 and get out of that relegation zone. I don't know Casellos as well, because that was prior to me coming into Series E, but I've definitely heard good things about his experience on Pringles back then. But I would say my expectations are not extremely low because of what I know of these players.
Absolutely. And it's not just their, experience in Series E, which I think it even extends past the names that you brought up. I'm pretty sure Prodigy Ages was also on Cheez-It at a certain point. So they've kind of been mixing around here across the board, getting a whole wealth behind them here. And not the first time, of course, that they are together as 3, but finally back here in our 4th season. So definitely a lot of high hopes for this roster. I think they come into it fairly late. And like you said, not a lot of data. Give them maybe 2-3 weeks, maybe capitalize on some of the chaos that now exists with some of the bigger changes, and we might get a similar situation to what we were discussing earlier out of a team like Razer.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But, of course, the final roster that I got the opportunity to sit down with. So let's take a look at what the Splash Boys had to say. All right, guys, I am now joined by the brand new Team Splash roster. I got Oi Senpai, Casellos, and Prodigy Aces joining me on the show. We're talking roster mania. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Welcome back to Series E. How are we doing today?
Really good. Thanks for having us.
Nice to be here.
Hey, pleasure to have you guys. Appreciate you taking the time to come and talk. Just want to start off at the top, and I'll come to you, Prodigy, for this one. Obviously, it's a tough situation for you guys coming in fresh, partway through the season. Do you feel like you guys can kind of hit the ground running? Are you happy with the way that you guys performed off the bat this week?
I mean, I'm not really happy how we performed, because if you're not first, there's always room for improvement. It is going to be rough joining late, but I think we can make a good run if we play consistent, like good back-to-back weeks, top 3. We can make a run for it.
Definitely important to find those places to improve. Casellas, did you guys have a significant amount of experience competing together prior to joining Series E this past week?
We've been together nearly since the start of Pro League, so I feel like we've had a decent amount of experience, but not enough to the point where I feel like we can be a top contender for a top team. So not enough, but I feel like we do have a good amount of experience coming in.
Important to be trending in the right direction. Oi Senpai, all 3 of you guys have previous experience in Series E. How do you think that experience is going to help you in rebounding this season and having a strong showing?
Just like the experience and like knowing what's going to happen in the games. Because we're like been in them and played in them before.
Casellas, when you look at the crop of talent in Series E this season and what we've seen from squads like Team Esports Arena, do you feel like the skill level has continually gone up in Series E since the last time you were competing?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I don't remember exactly everyone who was in it last time I competed in Esports Arena, but I know now there's Team Vizio, which I think is like a top team, and then Esports Arena with Skittle Cakes and Duplex. That's literally one of the best teams in North America now as well. So I would definitely say the talent has gone up since I was last in here.
It's definitely been an interesting progression when you look at the crop of talent that's been competing in Series E over the last year. Last question, I want to come to you, Prodigy Aces, to close it out. What are your goals and expectations for the season? I know you already talked about how you weren't happy with how you guys started things off, and you're looking to improve and really look to challenge for that first place spot. So what are your goals and expectations here at the halfway point?
I think our expectations by the end of the season should be like top 5. Maybe if we can make a really good run, top 3. Well, yeah, that's about it.
Well, you guys certainly have your work cut out for you. At least you got one game win under your belt. That's an okay place to start. You're hungry to improve. I like that. I'm pulling for you guys this season. Obviously, the legacy talent angle is awesome, and I'm glad to see all 3 of you back in Series E this season. So thank you so much for coming on and joining me today, and best of luck as the season continues, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for talking to Team Splash. Let's get back to the Roster Mania show. Good little insight there into the mindset of Team Splash, as they, of course, have recently gotten their start here in Season 4 of Series E Apex Legends. We've talked multiple times tonight about the confidence of these players in their interviews, but I will say it is a little refreshing. Casello specifically pointing out, hey, we have been playing together since the beginning of Pro League, but I still think there's some work to do. I think there's still a bit of a ways to go before we can be that contender, and that kind of honesty and kind of realistic approach is pretty refreshing, and I think it is especially nice from a team that is coming in as quickly as Splash is to just kind of get dropped right into the middle of the chaos that is Season 4 and have to make something of that, having that realistic expectation and understanding, hey, we've got a little bit of work to do here still is pretty nice to see.
Right. I think there's some realism to what they're experiencing. And hey, you know what? This last week, I think they finished with a final performance of 76 overall. That's technically higher than weeks 4, 5, 6 out of what was the original Splash roster. So while they aren't, having these massive, second, third, first place finishes across the board, they're still accumulating something that can put them up against the likes of maybe even Nerf, who they rub up currently about 50 points away to maybe get out of the current relegation spot where they're at. And you know what, Yeso? It always makes me happy. They said it themselves. They're hungry for more improvement. And I'll be honest, I think they were hungry for more than just that.
Yeah, they might be hungry for a little more, but definitely looking forward to seeing those gentlemen continue to work. And I think, while they are jumping into a difficult position, admittedly so, they seem ready and willing and excited for the challenge. And I look forward to seeing what they can do with it. All of these roster changes make for very interesting storylines to see how players adjust to the changes and what they're able to do with the opportunity. And there's no bigger opportunity than Splash coming in as a completely fresh roster in the middle of the season to just try and make some noise. And I think they certainly have the potential to do some of that.
So from Razer to Intel, Nerf, all of them, like you said, wildly different stories here. And alongside that, incredibly different degrees of varying success. So personally, I don't know about you, Yeso, but as we start to approach the second half here of Series Z, I think this is a good, little appetizer, kind of get a little of the taste here out in the field to get me very excited for what is potentially to come.
It's definitely going to be fun. I know you're on the Nerf hype train there big time. I'm feeling like Intel might be the one to challenge for the top. And of course, then you look at the rosters of Excedrin, Razer, and Splash trying to break into that top 3, get out of that relegation zone. I think there's a lot of reasons to keep an eye on these teams as they continue to grow within and without of Series E, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. Any kind of final thoughts on the day, Zephyr, before we let you go?
Ooh. I think I'm gonna nerd out for like 2 seconds and just say, you know how cool it is to not only just experience these changes over the course of the season, but also kind of see yourself a part of that and relive the emotions, the success, the failures of each of these rosters, and then just seeing it all kind of come together tonight. I know that's like the most self-centered thing in the world, but still, I think it is just super cool.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's fun to get to be, even if it's just a small part, a part of these players' journeys through competitive Apex and specifically here in Series E, and getting to be a part of telling their stories, because that's ultimately what you and I are all about. It's those stories and those journeys for these players, and getting to tell other people about them, whether it's on the broadcast, on my Twitter feed, on YouTube, during our own personal Twitch streams. Like, we love these scenes, and we love these players, and we love getting to talk about these players, and it is satisfying to be along for that ride to an extent. So I feel exactly the same as you do, Zephyr. I completely agree.
I wish you felt the same about Nerf, but that's something we can hopefully discuss.
We'll have a debate later.
There's probably going to be an Apex recap one of these Fridays, and we'll hash it out. We'll go back and forth there.
Yeah, we'll hammer it out. But Zephyr, I appreciate you taking the time, my friend. It's always good to talk Apex with you, and I look forward to doing it plenty more in the future, my friend.
All right, peace out.
All right, that is going to do it for my friend Zephyr, as he's going to go enjoy the rest of his day. Let's take a final couple of looks at a few things. I do want to take a peek at the cumulative standings here in Series E. Of course, we've been talking all day about what these players are trying to do, looking to kind of take that next step and break into the next level here in Series E. So it's important, of course, these standings are kind of that ultimate test of what these players are trying to do, because remember, these players are trying to battle for the opportunity to stay in Series E, hold on to that contract, and continue to compete. So there is where everybody stands here. Of course, top 3 hold on to their spot. Below that, you are relegated and have to requalify. Vizio right now with a near 400-point lead over last place and an over 200-point margin between themselves and Team Intel. Of course, Zephyr and I duking it out a little bit over whether Intel or Nerf have the best chance, and I will say I can at least put 1 point in my column because, you know, Intel is higher in the standings right now. They are closer to Team Vizio, so I can take Zephyr. I can still hear you, bud, by the way. People at home can't hear him, but I can, and I'm just going to say I'm feeling pretty good about my Intel pick right now. But of course, Splash, Excedrin, and Razer still with some work to do here as the season continues. Oh man, that was very good. As we wrap up the night, of course, I appreciate you guys all taking the time to come and hang out with us, talk a little shop here, Zephyr and I, and everybody's thoughts on all of the roster changes here in Series E. But of course, Series E, you do have to remember, is bigger than just Apex Legends now. We've expanded to 3 different titles, and it is Razer Week here on Series E, and it will continue tomorrow night. We've got Guilty Gear going on, and I'm looking forward to all of that and getting ready for the back half of the season. The Guilty Gear season has been incredibly exciting and interesting, so many different storylines and a lot of incredible players. So I want to remind you to make sure you come out for the show tomorrow night, and I also want to remind you to come out and game with us. Of course, Esports Arena is open in 18 locations all across the United States. You can see those locations right there right now. So come out and game with us. We've got all kinds of tournaments and events going on at our locations every single week. So if you want to find an Esports Arena near you, use !locations in Twitch chat right now. That is, though, going to do it for us here on the Roster Mania show. Again, thank you so much for coming to hang out with us. Make sure to tune in for Guilty Gear tomorrow. We'll be live at 4 p.m. Pacific time, kicking off that bracket. And of course, we'll be back again next week. We've got Halo Draft Day on Monday. Make sure you're here for that, and Apex will return on Tuesday night. That's all from me, folks. Thank you so much for coming to hang out. For myself, the entire live broadcast crew, and everybody here at Esports Arena, have a wonderful rest of your night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Ooh, like the 301 hum, bats of bullets off your chest till the armor falling off. Oh god, all those gas making you cough. Feeling caustic when I drop, leave your body in a pile, let it rot. Shield cells got a lot, watch you move, you a bot. Watch you fade like a thought, Skull Town where I bang. Watch your life, watch your drain, never getting off the train, never drop another game, yeah. 301 in my hands, different drop, same plan. To my squad, I'm the man, I'm a witness, no I can't. Sending shots, no spam, accurate, watch them slam, watch them run while they can, make them slump. Give me the loot, take what I want, all of my rounds, I light like the sun, yeah I am the one, lighting you up. R301, you're all that I need, you're all that I want. We at the top, act like we scum, taking your life and leaving the crumbs. Do what we want, we get the dub, living that life, yeah R301. I got the size, H-Cog, mega stabilized, no rock. Standing mad, more shots, standard stock, ready pop. I got the sight, stage cog, arrow stabilize, no rock. Standing back, more shots, standing stock, ready pop. Ooh, let the 301 hum, bats of bullets off your chest till the armor falling off. Oh god, all those gas making you cough. Feeling caustic when I drop, leave your body in a pile, let it rot. Shield cells got a lot, watch you move, you a bot, watch you fade like a thought. Skull town where I bang, watch your life, watch your drain, never getting off the train, never drop another game, yeah. Ooh, let the 301 hum, bats of bullets off your chest till the armor falling off. Oh god, all those gas making you cough. Feeling caustic when I drop, leave your body in a pile, let it rot. Shield cells got a lot, watch you move, you a bot, watch you fade like a thought. Skull town where I bang, watch your life, watch your train, never getting off the train, never drop another game, yeah. Let the 301 hum, bats of bullets off your chest till the armor falling off. Oh god, all those gas making you cough. Feeling caustic when I drop, leave your body in a pile, let it rot. Shield cells got a lot, watch you move, you a bot, watch you fade like a thought. Skull town where I bang, watch your life, watch your drain, never getting off the train, never drop another game, yeah. Ooh, let the 301 hum, bats of bullets off your chest till the armor falling off. Oh god, all those gas making you cough. Feeling caustic when I drop, leave your body in a pile, let it rot. Shield cells got a lot, watch you move, you a bot, watch you fade like a thought. Skull town where I bang, watch your life, watch your drain, never getting off the train, never drop another game, yeah. I got the sight, stage cog, barrel stabilize, no rock. Standing back, more shots, standing stock, ready pop. I got the sight, stage cog, barrel stabilize, no rock.